All right, as I said, this is Kerry Garrison with Multicopter Warehouse, and this is building a drone program. So hopefully this will have some information for you to think about when trying to put together a program for your company, organization, or agency, and hope you enjoy it. So we do have some upcoming webinars. We're trying to do one pretty much every week, and same day, same time as schedules permit. And next week, we have one on using drones to make money, some of the different business opportunities that are out there to kind of help grow your business, or if you're trying to think about getting into using your drone for business purposes, this will be a good webinar for you. If you're using the Matrice 200 series, the AVSS will be on April 29th to talk about their parachute recovery systems and what they do to help people get their flight over people waivers, which is pretty cool. Oops. Don't know why my screen changed. There we go. And on the 6th of May, Blue Vigil will be talking about their tether systems, which are available for some different platforms. So if you need long duration flight in a given area, for situational awareness, for lifting up some kind of sensor, or maybe a communications relay, something like that, the Blue Vigil systems are some pretty cool pieces of equipment that could really come in handy. So let's talk about drone technology, and it's growing extremely rapidly in industries as diverse as public safety, agriculture, construction, mining, real estate, land development, wildlife management, security, and many other different fields. And if you're in any of these, or if you're in an industry that can probably utilize aerial photography or videography, then hopefully this is the right place for you. A lot of people think they can just go and buy a drone and start a business, and you need to do more than that. You need to have a team or a process that can create the solutions while developing a business case. Why do you actually need it? What are you going to use it for? Is there going to be an ROI on it? Is it going to be worthwhile to have a program? And there's things to consider, such as training, licensing, insurance, waivers. Secondary issues is data security, data storage, and media processing. And we're going to talk about some of those things as we go along. Now, why does your company even need a drone program? It's because there's a lot of different uses, and it all comes down to one thing, and it's data. It's what kind of data can you create, either for yourself to enhance your business or to provide to a customer. In the case of maybe a 3D map, a point cloud, or just video or photos. And lots of different reasons why you need it, but it all comes down to data. And we need to capture the data in a way that's quick, it's safe, it's inexpensive, and better quality than we had before. And in many cases, it's different than what you could do. With ground-based systems, you're very limited into what kind of data you can get, but having a drone allows you a variety of different types of data that you can collect. On some of the major industries that are out there, it just kind of impact on what those industries are and kind of why they've improved on them by having drones. Public safety, definitely one of my favorites here. Cutting response time by about 1/3 on average missions. And that can cover things such as search and rescue, accident investigation, forensics. With fire departments, it can be a fire investigation, being able to deploy people in the right places at the right times in an efficient manner. Just being able to have an overview of a wildland fire can tell you that it's a lot bigger or smaller than you may think it is from the ground. So a lot of different applications when it comes to public safety. In construction, there can be as much of a 25% reduction of rework because you have more accurate maps, more data to work with, so you can see what's being done. that it's being done accurately. You can plan accurately, and a huge reduction in inspection time because a drone can fly over, get an overview of things, get you back data very, very quickly. And kind of combining those two, where one of the main purposes, or one of the, not one of the main, but one of the very important uses is to create 3D maps. And a good example for me personally was a few years ago. Let's see, Herb says he has no audio. I tell him to see there. So there was a huge crime scene here. It was 42 acres. This was a few years ago. And the sheriff's department called and asked if there was anything that we could do to help them with this, because it was really important. There was a deputy that had been shot, and they really wanted to get the data of that area as quickly as possible. And when I got on scene, they were telling me that their ground surveyors were estimating about a 2-week turnaround on the data. That's all the topographical data, the survey data, the photos and everything. And I was able to deliver a very high quality 3D map of the area that they could zoom in and out of, take measurements of, and everything in about 8 hours. So huge reduction in time. So, okay, great, Herb, way to go. So being able to do these 3D maps can work in public safety, can work in construction, mining, and many other type of industries. But going from a project that would have taken 2 weeks to get data down to 8 hours, that was huge. It was unheard of. So really started moving a lot of the public agencies around here into using aerial photography and photogrammetry to get that level of data. What program do I use for the 3D map? Good question, Greg. So like I said, this was several years ago, and I don't do a lot of mapping myself. It's very rare that I do a mapping job for someone. So it didn't make sense for me to have, excuse me, it didn't make sense for me to have a Pix4D license. So they're expensive, or even the monthly, I just don't have a need for it. So I actually used Maps Made Easy to generate the map and all the final data for them, because with Maps Made Easy, you kind of pay, the best way to put it is you pay per acre. It's not quite accurate, but for simplicity's sake, you see you can pay per acre. And the 42-acre crime scene ended up costing me about $16 to generate the map. For the flight planning, it was a big area, and I knew I was going to go through a bunch of batteries, so I used their software actually, which was called Map Pilot, because at the time it was the only one that did battery management. Now all of them do, and my favorite tool today is Pix4D Capture. I think it does a fantastic job. It's free, and it just works really, really well. And I can use a variety of different tools based on what I'm trying to accomplish with the data. So good question. Energy, we're seeing a lot of uses in energy, mostly with inspections, power lines, pipelines, towers, being able to lay out where different towers are going to go. There's massive projects going on in a couple different parts of the country with hundreds of pilots doing huge inspection jobs, and it is saving them a tremendous amount of money from going out and flying manned helicopters and dealing with the cost and the liability there. Agriculture, huge savings that are going on in agriculture, and that is just going to get better and better and better as people learn how to use multispectral data to look at plant health, ground analysis, lots of different applications come in on the agriculture side. And mining, we're seeing a huge increase in accuracy with site surveying data. Again, mostly using the same thing I talked about before, which is 3D mapping, being able to do cut fill analysis. There's a lot of really cool things going on in the mining industry right now. Tim, can you get in on that inspection action? Shoot me an email, all right? And I will hook you up with of one of the companies that is hiring pilots to do that inspection. So yeah, happy to pass some names along if you're interested in doing some of that type of work. So plenty of examples of different drone programs that are making a huge impact on their industries. First responders using it not to only save lives, but to mitigate the risks that come with responding to incidents. First responders, definitely my passion. I love that. Years ago, I developed a payload drop system for the M600 after I saw in a matter of it was over 2-week time, we had 4 teenagers fall through thin ice and 3 of them died because they couldn't get out to them. And so I developed a payload drop system that they could use to take out a sling, drop it to the person, and then pull them right out. And that kind of started me on the whole first responder side of our business. And it's been my passion ever since. We sold equipment down to the firefighters in Houston just before the big floods a few years ago. And a couple of days later, they sent me an email and they're like, hey, that equipment that you sold us saved 12 lives last night. So huge, cool, amazing things going on in first responders, public safety, search and rescue. All of our mountain rescue teams here in Colorado are outfitted with equipment now, and they're out there on a daily basis finding people that are lost. So really amazing things going on. Have I done any work with GIS? Not me personally. There's plenty of people that do. I don't have a lot of time to go out and actually do work. So a lot of my experience is with helping people to do things, sometimes going out and learning how to do it first and then showing people how to do it. But me personally, I don't do much of the actual work these days. Let's see, energy, construction, insurance companies, inspections are huge. That also includes things like, in fact, I had in here this morning, the Department of Transportation. They're looking at some purchases so that they can get to accident scene, vehicular scene, map it very quickly, clear the scene, and then do all the analysis after the fact with measuring tire treads and angles and all that stuff they can do after the fact instead of having to do it right there on site and take hours of time before they can clear the road. Greg, at the end, I'll put up my email address and shoot me an email. All right. So be happy to send you guys some information on some of these inspection projects that are going on. Down to the bottom here, transportation and agriculture. Agriculture is definitely growing. It's kind of in its infancy right now, but we're going to see a huge uptake on the agriculture side over the next year or two. The equipment is out there. DJI has the Phantom 4 multispectral, which is an amazing machine for agricultural purposes. It's just a lot of people don't know how to use the data yet. We can create the data, but actually putting together actionable items off that data is still kind of in its infancy. But amazing places like Kansas State University are working on that to create best practices and to teach people how to use that data to improve their crop yields. The last estimate I saw was that over the next 2 years that we'll see a reduction in cost and improvement in productivity of a farm utilizing drone technology by about 10 to 15%. And over the next 5 years, that's going to increase up to 25 to 30%. So drones in agriculture is absolutely going to be huge. Okay, so if you're trying to create a program for your own agency, or your own organization, your own business, one of the first choices is, are you going to do this stuff in-house, or are you going to do it outsourced? And there's pros and cons to both ways. In-house, you're going to have internal resources, have training, managing the operations, developing the guidelines, creating operational manuals, but you have full control over the operations. So pros and cons going on there. You have an initial outlay on your hardware, the aircraft, the payloads, ongoing costs of pilot training, your fleet maintenance, insurance, the operational risk, flexibility required to adapt to different regulations, and expertise needed to work with regulators, get proper waivers, and all that good stuff. So while there's a big benefit of in-house being able to deploy immediately, to have complete control, no one else has access to the data if it comes down to a security issue, there are the downsides to it. Working with an outsourced drone service provider, you don't have the initial upfront costs, you don't have to deal with the insurance, you just have less control over the operations. Sometimes one of these is going to be better for someone than another one. And it is something to think about versus just always thinking we should do this ourselves. Sometimes the resources just aren't there to be able to do it yourself, and it may make sense to go out to a service provider. I kind of like this DSP, drone service provider. That wasn't even a thing like a year ago, and now there's lots of companies that are out there creating these service organizations to provide data for companies. And maybe that's what you guys are here for. I'd actually like to hear from you. Are you planning, I don't want to do a poll, but if you can just throw in the questions box, are you planning on doing something in-house for your own organization, or are you planning on becoming a drone service provider to provide data to your customers? It'd be interesting to hear from some of you guys of kind of where you're at, so I kind of have an understanding where you're going. Okay, provider, in-house, you want to be a DSP, in-house. Okay, good range. Excellent. Yeah, I'm trying to read through some of these. Wow. Well, thank you guys. Well, that's a lot of responses there. And it's a good mix. It looks like it's about 50-50 people wanting to sell to customers and people wanting to do in-house programs. And I'm trying to read this one from you, Wes. You're wanting to provide services. Have you heard what type of data they're looking for when doing inspections with a thermal camera? Well, that's a good question. And that's going to depend on the type of utility that you're going to be working with. You have definitely a lot of different types of utility companies out there. And most generally what we're working with is going to be power. That seems to be the biggie right now. And it's very easy to do thermal inspections of power-related systems, whether that be power lines, substations, transformers, and other related equipment. So when it comes to what kind of data they're looking for, well, with daylight cameras, they're looking for damage of the power lines. They're looking for debris on the different towers. That's what they need to know. Do they need to go out and do maintenance somewhere on something with a visual inspection? And sometimes a thermal image can help determine that there's something that's causing a problem. If something is running hotter than spec, then it needs to be looked at, because anytime that power equipment is running hot, it means there's resistance. And if there's resistance, there's a problem. So kind of has a varied use to it in what you're looking for. You can take a thermal image of a power transformer up on a pole, and what you're going to see is, well, that's hot. Well, what good is that data? If you can then create a report from that and say, well, yeah, here's the different temperatures of that transformer, hand that to the utility company, then their engineer can look at it and go, that's within spec. Not a problem, move on to the next one. So it does depend on what type of utility company that you're working with, and that will determine what type of data they're looking for. Does the Phantom 4 multispectral camera come off the drone, or are the cameras not interchangeable? They are not interchangeable. The Phantom 4 multispectral system is a system, and the cameras are not interchangeable. Oh, what about roof inspections for big warehouses? Thermal versus visual spectrum. Yeah, actually both are important when it comes to roofing. A visual image can definitely show you some types of issues, and a thermal image can show you things like water damage. It can show you heat leakage. It, with HVAC systems, it can show you if one is running hotter than the other. That may mean that it needs some maintenance or that it's having a problem. So commercial roof inspection is often both visual spectrum as well as thermal. So it's a really good place to be if you're kind of in that industry and you can provide that data, because there's both sides of that. So it's pretty cool stuff that you can do with roofing. Louis, thank you. That was the other point. I had that on my mind, and so let me mention that. Let's go back to utilities for a moment. Another big utility is solar panels, and a thermal camera is very, very good at detecting problems with solar panels. In the middle of the day, you can fly a thermal camera over a solar panel and see if there's cells or even panels that are having problems. A panel that is working correctly will be absorbing a lot of the thermal energy from the sun. And to the camera, that will look cool. It won't be. It actually will be just as hot as a panel that's not working, but to the camera, a working panel will absorb light, a non-working panel will reflect, not light, I'm sorry, but thermal energy. So a working panel will absorb thermal energy, a non-working panel will reflect thermal imaging or thermal data, and if you touch them or you put a thermometer on them, they'd be the same, but to the camera, they do look different. So for solar panels, thermal imaging is fantastic. What about roof and building inspections by fire department inspectors? Actually, that was one of the very first drones to a public safety entity that I ever sold, was specifically for the purpose of doing fire department fire inspections after a fire. Was a huge benefit to them because they could see a lot more than having to put people even up on the roof. Having a bigger view of it gave them a much better angle, and it's a lot safer than putting people up onto a roof that had been burned. So roof and building inspections by fire departments is definitely one of their leading purposes, is not just during a fire to see what's going on, but also after the fact to do analysis of the fire. Let's see if I missed any questions here. Okay, I think I'm doing good so far. So as we start trying to determine what we're going to do with our program, you need a proof of concept. You should determine your goals and define some metrics. This way you can figure out whether it's going to be worth it to do it and what the ROI is going to be. And it's not always, the return on investment isn't always monetary. You know, a fire department will see an ROI in terms of improved safety, improved effectiveness, improved data collection. Those things, it won't necessarily be, yeah, I paid my drone off by doing this. So when I talk about ROI throughout this, I'm not just talking about, yes, I made money with my drone or not. It's, did that really help the business, and what metric can you put in to determine that measure of success? Will, what about using it for route determination surveys for pipeline? Yeah, actually, there's some good software for that. I believe it's ArcGIS, and it has features for doing more lengthy types of missions for routes. Instead of just always doing a big 3D map like most of the software does, ArcGIS has a mode for doing more linear type of systems for doing that type of stuff. Can you attach a thermal unit on a Phantom 4 Pro, or do you have to buy a new drone? In essence, you need to buy a new drone. While yes, I have actually done that and put a thermal camera on a existing Phantom, you don't have a gimbal, you don't have stabilized footage, you have to add another battery, you have to add a transmitter, you're going to need another receiver and a monitor, and you're probably not going to have recording capabilities. So it's extremely limited when you just bolt on a thermal camera to an existing drone. It's much better to buy the right equipment. We'll talk about equipment down the road here. So let's kind of get back to where we were talking about here. Define your operations. That clarifies their methodology, their impact, potential safety benefits. Once the mission is defined, then you need to account for each element, including but not limited to the hardware and the software involved. Sometimes you do need processing software. We've talked about some already. Drone Deploy, Pix4D, you may need something like that. How many people and the type of quality of the operators that are required, and what do you need to do to comply with any regulations. I've already kind of touched on the ROI here. Some things can be quantified, such as actual money being paid, or not easily quantified, such as safety of the staff or speed that you can respond to a situation, or improved metrics such as efficiency, productivity. And you need to document your accomplishments and your errors. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? Continually analyze that to improve your program. Ronnie, I'm going to get back to your question in a little bit. So when we're kind of looking at the proof of concept phase, here's a couple different primary mission types: mapping and surveying, inspection, scouting, situation overwatch, some of the relevant industries that those are for. How do they typically measure their qualitative measures for success? With mapping and surveying, it's data and workflow convenience, as well as accuracy for measuring that success. Inspection, same type of thing. You have this convenience of having this improved data, and your measure of success is your cost and time savings, your data resolution, reduction in hazardous man hours, the time to deploy, the accuracy of the data, the speed at which you can get that data back, how easy it is to then measure that information and be able to act on it. Scouting and situation overwatch for like public safety, it's kind of hard to put on what is going to be the measurement, and it really is going to come from incident commanders and the people in the field providing input on how well the program is working. And things to measure are going to be your time savings, reduction in risk, your time to deploy, even successful missions. And then as well, when you start deploying, you want to record your errors and what did we do wrong? How can we do things better? So learning from mistakes is always a good thing to do. Okay, we'll get on to establishing the program. A program's made up of different elements, obviously, ranging from operational procedures to data security. Every organization needs to have different priorities and put together programs that best suit them and their organization. Things to look at are going to be our standard operating procedures, staffing and training, program management, risk assessment and mitigation. That's going to be huge when we talk about waivers, data security, and even data management. If you're out there flying a lot, you're going to generate a lot of data. So this is one of the things that I see a lot is people come in and they're like, oh, I need a drone. I'm going to go start a drone business, without taking into account what all it's going to take to support that business and the things that you need to make sure that you have in place so that your business runs smooth. It's very rare that there's a successful drone business or a drone service provider. That's usually part of an existing business. Maybe it's an existing photography business or inspection business or some other type of business, and they're adding a drone in as a tool versus building a business around aerial imagery. They're out there. Don't get me wrong. There are a handful of really successful businesses that only deal strictly with aerial imaging, and a lot more that are taking it and making it part of their existing business. All right, so once we have that, time to get down to the tax here, build your fleet, get the right tools for the task, and we'll talk about some of the tools here in just a moment, some of the different systems. Backup systems. If this is your business and you're relying on that unit, that aircraft, to be there to provide some type of benefit to you or your clients, you need to have a backup system. I used to do wedding photography. I would never, I know it's kind of weird, but yeah, I used to do wedding photography. I would never show up at a wedding with one camera body. That was just, you just didn't do that. Something can go wrong. So I always had backup lenses, backup bodies, backup cards, backup lights, everything, so that if something failed, it didn't keep me from getting my job done. Expanding your business, multiple sites, increasing your footprint, all the basic business stuff there. But a big one is going to be data storage. And this is, again, one of those things where I see people needing to add storage space because they're just generating terabytes of data every year, and they go out and buy a hard drive. They're not buying a RAID array. They're not buying multiple drives so they can do backups. They buy a single hard drive to store their data on for the year. And you're just asking for problems. Again, going back maybe to my wedding days, where if I lost a wedding worth of photos, I would have been out of work very, very quickly. But same thing goes here, where we have images and we have videos, and we need to have the storage capacity and the right safeguards around taking care of that data, which may mean RAID systems, Drobos, or things like that nature, or multiple hard drives that things are being backed up to. Good saying that goes back to the old days is 1 is none, 2 is a copy, 3 is a backup. And I live by that. I have backups of everything. Okay, let's talk about choosing the right tool for the job. And this is one, again, where, you know, based on the customers I've had come in here, they want to do mapping, so they buy an Inspire 2. Doesn't really make sense. It's not the right tool, you know, or they're not buying the right tool for the job. And of course, that's what we're here for. That's what Multicopter exists for, is to help you choose the right tool. You tell us what you're going to do. We're going to recommend the right equipment for you. But what are your requirements? Are you just going to be out taking photos? Are you going to be doing videos? Are you going to be doing mapping, surveying, inspection work, all those different things that we've been talking about? What are your requirements? Before we pick out the hardware, let's figure out what your requirements are. What do you need the machine to do? And then what are your deliverables? What do you have to deliver to a customer? Again, that can be video or photos. It can be point clouds. It can be CAD files. It could be any number of different things. And understanding what those deliverables are going to help us pick out the hardware and the software to make sure that you can get that done properly. And then we figure out which platform will best suit your needs. Sometimes it's a one size fits all. You just need a Matrice 200 with, you know, 2 different cameras. Who knows? It could be a Mavic 2 Pro, because that's all you need in order to get the job done without spending 4 times the amount of money. So figuring out your requirements and your deliverables first will help determine which platform is going to best suit your needs, versus going, I want that machine and I want it to do these things, the other way around. And do you need any additional software? Sometimes it's a service like Pix4D. Sometimes you need Lightroom or Photoshop or some other tool to process the data so that you can create the right deliverables. But definitely think about your deliverables and your requirements first before taking a look at the hardware and trying to figure out what hardware is going to suit your needs. It comes down to what do you need and picking the hardware that's going to be right. So some of the things to consider when we're talking about capabilities, there's standard cameras, your typical RGB camera, your daylight camera, visible spectrum camera, however you want to word it. Zoom cameras, the Matrice 200 series supports the Z30, which is a 30 times optical zoom camera. Very amazing piece of kit right there. Very useful for inspection work, for search and rescue, for SWAT teams, for zooming in on a scene with being enough of a distance that they don't hear the drone and still being able to see things. There's specialized sensors out there right now, such as methane detectors, gas detectors, small LiDAR systems that are coming out. Some very cool things that we can bolt onto different platforms. Thermal, we've already kind of touched on thermal a little bit. Lots of different applications for thermal imaging. On the 200 series, there's spotlights, loudspeakers, laser rangefinders. There's a number of different things that are coming out for the Matrice 200 series. And do you need to consider portability? And that can be either, well, we just don't have vehicles big enough to carry a big aircraft, or you need to actually hop on commercial airlines and fly. If that's the case, a Matrice 200 series not going to be a good choice because you can't take those batteries on a commercial airliner. You're going to have to ship them in advance or have some other way of getting those batteries on site. So portability may be something that you have to consider. And then budget. I have budget at the end. I think it's really needs to be the least important of the different aspects, because your requirements and your deliverables determine the hardware. It shouldn't be my budget determines the hardware and then we try and shoehorn everything into that. You got to think about what do you need first. All right, let's okay, so Ronnie, I'll go ahead and touch on your question. He's asking, what about topical mapping for construction projects similar to Topcon, Leica, et cetera? And yeah, there's fantastic software for that. And I am drawing a blank off the top of my head. If you go to Pix4D, Pix4D, the number 4, Pix4D.com, they just announced a new product for earthworks type of work that is supposed to be really good. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet because I don't really understand all the terminology that's used in some of this stuff. I can get you a demo of that if you'd like. There's Drone Deploy has some good stuff for the topical mapping, and there's a couple that I saw at ConExpo that look like they may be promising here in the near future. But Propeller has some good software for that as well. But Pix4D will do your topographical maps so that you can measure different angles and cut fill amounts, things like that. So Pix4D is kind of the go-to right now, but I'm seeing some very specific niche software for construction specifically that's going to be hitting the market coming out. So hopefully that answered your question. Okay, let's talk about getting legal and making sure that you understand the legalities of being out there to fly. What do you need to have? What do you need to think about for any non-recreational use? So if you're not out there just flying for your own personal enjoyment, that's going to be a Part 107 flight. So you'll need a Part 107 certificate. It's not that hard to get. It's 150 bucks to take the test. It's 60 questions. You have 2 hours. You sit down at a computer. You answer the questions. There's no practical flight test. It's not that hard. There are things on there you do need to study up for: airspace, weather, some flight dynamic stuff. And I use remotepilot101.com. I recommend everyone, I recommend it to everybody. All my employees have gone through that, and that's how they've aced the Part 107 exam. it's normally $150. This discount code MCW30 gets you 30% off, which, if my math is correct, makes it like 99 bucks. And fantastic online course, and it's a lifetime subscription. So 2 years down the road, when you have to take your recurrency test, you just log back into your Remote Pilot 101 account, look at the new data, and you can see, you know, take retests, refresh yourself on airspace and other aspects. But if anything's changed, it will be in there so that you can pass your recurrency test. Now, if you're a public agency, you can opt to go for a COA, or a certificate of authorization. And this can sometimes be a benefit because then you can self-certify your pilots. They don't need to go through the 107 program, but typically a COA is going to come back more restrictive than a Part 107. So a lot of the agencies that I work with started with COAs because they were easier to get and there was no Part 107, and then they have transitioned all their pilots to Part 107 certificates because it's easier to get waivers and different things. Paul, he says, I used Remote Pilot 101 and passed the very first time. So there's another one for Remote Pilot 101. It's a fantastic program. Okay, Tim, in your experience, are waivers becoming a thing of the past because of LANCs? I have not had to get a waiver in 2 years, and back then it was for a night flight and took an act of Congress to get. Wide area authorizations are quickly becoming a thing of the past. For those of you who have been to our shop here in Centennial, Colorado, we are right next to Centennial Airport. We are very close. And when we moved in here, I immediately applied for a CAPA Class D authorization so that we didn't have any problems with our techs out flying or doing demo flights right here. And before they approved by the time they were getting ready to get to my wide area authorization request, LANCs hadn't fully come out yet, but it was right on the cusp, but the facility maps had come out. So when I got my wide area authorization back, it simply said, adhere to the facility maps. Okay, well, great. That was easy. Now with LANCs, which is an automated authorization when you're near an airport, you go into an app, you put in your flight information, you hit submit, and within like 15 to 30 seconds, you have your authorization in almost real time. It's very, very close. So getting wide area authorizations around airports is still necessary for airports that do not have LANCs, but for the ones that do, you no longer need that wide area authorization. In terms of other waivers, they aren't going away anytime soon, and that is things like daylight operations waiver, flight over people waiver, beyond visual line of sight waiver, altitude waivers, those types of things. And I'll touch on those in a little bit as well, but those type of waivers are not going away anytime soon. Okay, so let's talk about insurance for a moment. It's something a lot of people do not think about, and it is kind of important. I don't fly without any insurance. I never would. It's something you really need to think about. And there's really two types of insurance. And I probably should have broke this down a little bit. There's hull insurance, which is your aircraft if it's damaged to be able to get a replacement or a repair. And then there's liability insurance, and very different things. And some companies can provide both. Some will only provide liability. So depending on what you're the type of insurance you're trying to get, if you want on-demand insurance. So like I said, I don't do much commercial flying. Maybe I'll shoot a couple weddings a year because I know I have a guy that calls me once in a while, and I'll just use on-demand insurance. and I use verify. So I can put in the area, I can put in the time, the date, and all that, and an insurance policy to cover that flight or that time will cost me typically between 25 and 40 bucks. If I was out flying every day, that would get very expensive, and I would look to a standard type of coverage from a company like Transport Risk Management or Hill and Usher. I've heard really, really good things from Transport Risk Management. Rick over there is fantastic, so he's helped a lot of our customers. Casey, is the FAA 107 cert required in Canada? No, FAA is for the United States. Canada has, if I remember right, it's the CAA or something. It's a different license that you get in Canada. It should be fairly easy to look up. It's pretty easy if you go and take, I believe there's like 1, 2, and 3 day classes, but I know people who have just taken the 1 day class and been able to pass the test up there, and it's pretty straightforward. It's about the same as what I'm talking about with the 107, but it's specific for Canada. Bill is recommending uavgroundschool.com for the 107 training. So yeah, I've heard good stuff about that. Transport Canada, thank you. Transport Canada is the one that you get your UAV license from in Canada. Okay, I think we've covered insurance here. Let's talk about waivers and authorizations. What I tell almost everybody is as soon as you get your Part 107, get a couple of waivers that you may need. And the very first one is the 107.29 daylight operations. Now this sounds weird, but what you're getting is a waiver to get around the requirement that, or the rule that says you can only fly during daylight. So it really is a night times operation waiver, but it's waiving the daylight operations rule so that you can fly at night. It's not that hard to get. You have to fill out some paperwork. You have to talk about your risk mitigation, and every once in a while we have a class on it. We're rebuilding our training center right now, so hopefully that'll be back up and running in a couple of weeks, and we'll put on more classes here. We'll live stream those to help people get their daylight operations waiver. A lot of public safety agencies need to get flight over people waivers. Often that involves putting parachute systems on the aircraft right now, except for a couple really small systems that can break apart if they hit something. But parachutes are pretty much required for flight over people waiver. And then there's operating limitations waivers, altitude, distance, beyond visual line of sight, a few different ones like that. Those you really, not too many people need to look at, but I suggest everybody get their daylight operations waiver, because it's just one of those things. You never know when a job is going to come up that requires you to fly at night. Real estate, sometimes a house looks way better at night when it's got lights on it and everything, and the lights are on inside the house. Well, you want to fly that, you need a daylight operations waiver. Is there any reciprocity agreements between the FAA and Transport Canada? No, there is not. The 107 is only good in the US, and the Canadian license is only good in Canada. If you live in the United States and want to fly in Canada, you got to get the Canadian license and vice versa. Bill says UAV Ground School provides the 107.29 training too. Well, that's good to know. So yeah, if you're looking at UAV Ground School, they have the training for the daylight operations. That's pretty cool. Where do you get the waivers? You get them from the FAA. You should be familiar or get yourself familiar with a website called faadronezone.faa.gov. I'm going to put that in the chat here. faadronezone.faa.gov. I'll send that to all. And that is where you create an account and you apply for your waivers. Do you know if every state requires commercial business license to fly commercial in that state? No, that is not the case in most places. Well, I guess that depends. I guess there's two ways to answer that. I mean, if you have a business in a state, you need a business license in that state. I mean, that's just common practice. But in terms of a commercial drone license, a Part 107 license, if you're doing commercial business, you need a Part 107. And there's a couple states right now that have their own thing that they're trying to do on top of that. But I don't know how well that's working out yet. You have recommendations for filling out the 107.29. First time for request was denied, but didn't say why. Usually it's lack of mitigation. You haven't described how you're mitigating risks properly. And it's hard for me to just give you some basic tips in this webinar, because that would be a webinar into itself. So it's a lot of information. You, excuse me, got a weird cough, and it's not the bad one. Not only do you have to say how you're going to take care of the risks, but a big part of it has to do with understanding the physical issues of flying at night, and that's recognizing distance, recognizing orientation. There's different things that happen to your eyes at night, like how long does it take for you to adjust to darkness? I can't remember the technical term for it, but if you stare at a light for a period of time, it will appear to be moving. You can test that just by looking at a star. You look at it for a minute or two, and it will appear to start moving around. And those are things that you need to say that you, not only do you understand, but you are testing either your other pilots or your visual observers on their knowledge of it on a regular basis, so that they understand what those risks are and how to mitigate them. North Carolina Department of Transportation requires their own drone certification as well as a 107. Yeah, I couldn't remember the exact states, but I think there's like 2 or 3 of them. Do you have a resource for sample ops manuals for public service drone team operations? Vern, I'm not going to answer that right now, but at the end of this, when we get to the Q&A, if I don't get to it, be sure and ask me about this, and I'm going to give you a place to go that you should be on if you're in public service. All right. Will there be the ability to replay this webinar after its completion? Yes. Either late tonight or tomorrow morning, you will receive an email that has a link to the webinar recording and a certificate of completion, basically saying that you attended this, because a lot of companies are backing people who are staying at home right now to attend webinars, and they want some type of certificate that you attended. So you will get that in an email tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about some additional resources, but not the one you're asking for, Vern. I don't have that on here. There's some good resources from DJI on data security practices, and I've got the link on here. These will be hyperlinks that I will send you in the email tonight or tomorrow, so you don't have to worry about like writing these down right now unless one seems really interesting to you. I will send you all of these links in the email. Drones and Law Enforcement Getting Started ebook from DJI. That's a really good one. Earlier today, DJI did do a webinar on public safety, and I doubt too many people were on there because it didn't seem like there was that many people who were actually on, because it was sent out to enterprise dealers, and we weren't told it was more customer oriented. Otherwise, we would have sent out an invitation. But as soon as that webinar recording is released, then I will send that out to people, and so you can see that, because it was actually, there was some pretty good information in there. Let's see. Kitty Hawk provides a copy of their own approved application online, very helpful in formatting my 107.29 waiver. Eric, is that in the Kitty Hawk app, or is that on Kitty Hawk's website? So if you could get back to me on that. So, okay, back to the resources, drones and government work. That was a good piece. Drone insurance 101, decent piece there. Commercial UAV news, I subscribe to that. There's stuff every couple days. That's real interesting. The FAA dronezone.faa.gov, I've already mentioned that one. That is where you register your aircraft. That's where you submit your waivers. If there's an accident that you need to report, then you do it on the FAA dronezone.faa.gov. So again, I will send these out so you don't have to try and remember them right now. And I think that is pretty much going to wrap things up for this. We'll go ahead. I'll start getting to some Q&A here. And okay, Vern, where were you? Okay. I'm just, give me a second here. There is a Facebook group that you should join if you are in public safety. I'm just going to look it up real quick so I don't say something stupid. Okay, and I will do a reply to all here. So hopefully you see that. That is a Facebook group specifically for public safety individuals. Really, really good information. If you ask in that group for some sample operations manuals and things, lots of people are there to help you out. A really, really good group of people. Okay. So the Chinese are giving us advice on data security, LOL. Good point, Greg. Yeah. Okay, Eric says that's on Kitty Hawk's website. Kitty Hawk is a great app. I use that to get my Lance authorizations, to check my airspace, weather, a couple different things. So Kitty Hawk is a great app. Highly recommend it. Eric says check out Kitty Hawk's website because they have their sample 107.29. Do not copy it word for word. Just kind of rewrite it into your own words. That'll help you out. Okay. I've read 107 study guides, which is filled with aeronautical acronyms that is actually intimidating, caused me to delay study. Are these tech terms and details on the exam? Some, but not too many. I would say go on, just search on Part 107 sample exams, and you'll get a better, if you like take a few of them, you'll get a better feel for the overall what is on there, which I think is pretty cool. But there really isn't too many acronyms to be concerned with. To me, the worst part of it is understanding airspace, whether you're in class B, C, D, or E, and what colors those are and what the altitudes are. And if you really break that down to its simplest components, you can get through the test. I do recommend that you download the Airman's Supplement. I think that's what it's called. I think it's called the Airman's Supplement. And that is what they are going to hand you when you walk in to take the test. You'll get a physical copy of the Airman's Supplement. And when it says, look on page 37, you know, what is at these coordinates, you're looking in the Airman's Supplement. And you can download that PDF. And the very first page of the supplement is a legend. And that legend will help you answer a handful of questions on the test just by referring back to the legend. So find the supplement, and if someone can find a link to it, I'll post it here in the comments while I'm talking. But the Airman supplement, it's really good for studying, and it is what you are going to use when you take your test. Okay, Mike, hey, thanks for that link to Kitty Hawk. I will paste this in here and send to all. So that's the application, or the how to apply for a daylight waiver. Good information there. I just received my daylight waiver. People should be aware it may take a couple of times. I was denied 3 times. It's all about wording. Absolutely agree. It is all about the wording. I got mine on the first pass, no problem. We had just done a class here. Everybody got theirs right away. It is entirely about the wording. If using a personal drone for mixed personal and commercial use, how should it be labeled per FAA requirements? The short answer is both. Yeah, you can register it as both recreational and commercial. All of mine are simply, they just have my commercial registration on them, even though I do fly them recreationally, because it covers both. So I don't think you need to have both. You can, but if you have a 107 and your aircraft is registered under your 107, then you are allowed to fly recreationally. So technically, you only need the 107 registration. Ronnie is asking about costs. Are you talking about the costs of the hardware and software, or insurance, or waivers? What specifically are you asking about? Bill, is there any company building a prosumer grade drone like the P4P that offers multi-camera drones, interchangeable cameras? Yes. The short answer is yes. Autel, their new Evo 2, which we will be carrying here, has interchangeable cameras. There's 2 daylight cameras, and there's a dual camera, which is daylight and thermal. So the Autel Evo 2 product is looking like it's going to be a good product line for us to carry, and the cameras are just easily swappable. So that's definitely one to look at. Yes, when we get ready to do another 107-29 class, we will definitely let everybody know. Yes, on your test, you want to make sure you understand the difference between AGL and MSL, above ground level or mean sea level. They're used differently in different places, or they're used in different places depending on what you're doing. I don't think it's the AIM document. It should be the Airman Supplement. Okay, let me take a look. See if I can find this. The Airman Knowledge Testing Supplement, I believe, is the right one. If this is it, I will just post a link here in the chat. So give me just a moment to make sure this is the right file. It's taking a little while here. Talking about cost, the cost of equipment can range anywhere from just under $2,000 to $30,000, depending on the hardware and what you're going to use, what different sensors that you're going to want to have. Okay, so I'm going to post a link in here. Okay, there's a link to the PDF for the Airman Supplement, so that should help you. Like a Mavic 2 Pro is going to be $1,700. You had extra batteries, case and things, you're looking at $2,000. A Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, you're looking at just under $4,000, all decked out with extra batteries and things. You go into a Matrice 210, you're looking at $9,000 for the aircraft, $2,000 for a daylight camera, up to $14,000 for a thermal camera, which is also a dual. You can $3,000 for the Z30, the 30 times optical zoom. And if you want a laser-based methane detector, that'll only run you $105,000. So the cost is all over the board, and that's why we're here, to help you to determine what's the best uses. Do any of the DJI drones have transponders? No. The new enterprise products, the Matrice 200 series and the Mavic 2 Enterprise products, have ADS-B in, so they can detect other manned aircraft, but they are not allowed to transmit. The FAA does not want us to have transponders on them for fear of clogging up the airways with those. When will we be getting the Evo 2? The short answer is when it ships. They're on delay after delay after delay. They had to shut down manufacturing due to COVID, and I had a meeting with them this week. Hopefully that is going to be back on track here fairly soon. What is DJI announcing on April 27th? Well, I know that, but I can't tell you, otherwise I'd have to kill you. So you're going to have to wait. It's a drone. So there's that. Harry A. Koch, liability insurance through the AMA. Reasonable if you belong to the AMA. Hey, I'm going to copy and paste that in here for people looking for another insurance alternative. Okay, you got the testing supplement. Which video editing program works easiest with drone videos? I have a DJI P4 Pro and I have Adobe Premiere Pro. I mean, if you have Premiere Pro and you like it, use Premiere Pro. It's a great program. I don't like the subscription model, so I use DaVinci Resolve. It was one time $300 and I absolutely love it. I'm actually a DaVinci Resolve certified instructor now. That's how much I liked it, that I have gone through all the training courses to be an instructor. So I absolutely love DaVinci Resolve. Will you be getting the Evo 2 Dual? Yes. Yes, I will. I don't know when. I don't know when it's going to ship. Everything was supposed to have already shipped by now. Everything is on a delay with the Evo 2. So I currently do not have dates or even a final price on the Evo 2 Dual, which I should have that in the next couple days. It's going to be somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000, we believe, on the Dual. But again, don't have final pricing on that. I have another call coming up with Autel in the next couple days, hopefully to get final pricing. You can see the pre-order pricing for the two Evo 2s on our website right now. And as soon as I have the information on the Dual, I will get that out there as well. I think I got to everybody's questions. If I missed you, feel free to go ahead and put it back in again so I see it here, and I'm trying to get to everybody. Regarding the course on Remote Pilot 101, do you recommend the full course or the recurrent course? That depends. If you have never taken your Part 107 exam, you need the full course. If you got your 107 and you are getting ready to take your bi-yearly recurrency test, then you only need the recurrent course. But yes, if you have never had your 107, you need to get the full course. Okay, thanks. My other photography and printing business, I subscribe to Adobe Creative Cloud, so I get Premiere Pro. There's just so much to it. Yeah, I mean, DaVinci Resolve, there's so much to it too. I mean, they're heavy duty video editing apps. You can start with something like iMovie. I can't remember the other ones. There's a handful of less expensive ones. There's even a really good one for the iPad. and I am totally lost my train of thought on that for a second. Let me see if I can find it. LumaFusion. So yeah, if you just want to edit on an iPad, LumaFusion is a fantastic editor for the iPad. Again, what is DJI announcing? And I already said, I already know that, but I would have to kill you if I told you, so you're not getting that information out of me. Okay, Daniel. Getting a lot of pushback from senior staff integrating drone surveying into our GPS survey workflow. Any tips on convincing stubborn decision makers? Sure, cattle prods. That works really well. Cattle prods to the right areas, and you can convince anybody to do anything. So hopefully that helps. My shorter answer to that is going to be, you got to show them. And if you already have a drone, you know, you have a personal drone, one of the DJI products, a Mavic Air, Mavic Pro, whatever, the best way is to show them how it works. And the easiest way to do that is to contact me for a demo license of Pix4D so that you can actually go and map a mission, get the data, show them the data, and show them, look, this is what we can get out of this. This is how it's going to help us. So that would be my best recommendation is if you have a drone, go and get the data. Or if you have someone that if you know someone who has a drone and can fly the mission for you, and then, like I said, use a trial license for Pix4D so you can actually show them the benefit of it. Final Cut Pro, yeah, if you're on a Mac, Final Cut Pro is awesome. And it's the same, it's $300, it's really easy to use. I prefer DaVinci Resolve because it has other features to it for the same price. It's got a big audio editing engine in it. It has a visual effects engine in it. Those are all extra with Final Cut Pro or Premiere, but it's just personal preference. Is there opportunities to become distributors for Multicopter? We have a couple different business opportunities available for people. There are sub-dealers, and those are smaller dealers who are too small to buy direct, who buy from us to resell to customers. And I have a program called the Commissioned Agent Program. And that is a program where you are acting as a salesperson and you're delivering quotes to people that I pre-provide you, and we can modify them for different customers. And once I get that sales order back and we get that order paid, I pay out a 10% commission on that sale. So we have a couple different business opportunities out there that may be of benefit. I am going to, Garrison at multicopterwarehouse.com. I'll send this to everybody here. Again, you will get an email with my information in it, but I just sent my email address to everybody. So if you're interested in any of these opportunities, then you know, be sure and let me know. And let me do this one more time. Okay, so yeah, if you're interested in any of those opportunities, be sure and let me know, and I can get you more information on either the Commissioned Agent Program or our sub-dealer program and get you going. So this would be, okay, yeah, Ronnie, contact me and let me know what I can do for you, okay? Ops Manual Resources. Where did I put that? Copy. Okay, there you go, Vern. Let me know that you got that. Gabriel, send me an email, okay? I'll hook you up with the right people. I don't have that information sitting right here in front of me. Shoot me an email that you're interested in some of these inspection opportunities that are out there. I'll get you hooked up, all right? thank you everybody for joining. We went a little bit long, but not too bad. Really appreciate you coming on board for today, spending some time with me. Hopefully I got you some good information. Be sure and check out our other webinars that we have coming up. Next week's I think is going to be kind of interesting. I go a little more in depth into some of the different business opportunities that are out there, which kind of play on top of this one, which is kind of designing your program. Next week, we're going to talk about real business opportunities that are out there. And then if you're into the Matrice 200, AVSS, we'll talk about their recovery systems. And then in May, Blue Vigil tether systems. And we have more planned every single week. So really appreciate you guys coming on board, spending the time with me, and I will get this information out to you as quickly as possible. It just takes a while to process the recording of here and then get it out in an email. But I promise I will do that as quickly as possible. So thanks.